Magneto is the most revered baddie in the X-Men universe. The Master of Magnetism has always proved to be a menacing character and a serious threat to humanity. However, despite his well-deserved reputation, Magneto is also known to show his human side and use his powers for good. One such incident is seen in the Uncanny X-Men 1963 number 150, where after a tussle with Kitty Pryde, Magneto is seen remorsing and acknowledging his destructive decisions. So let's break down what led to Magneto using his powers for good. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Aftermath of X-Men vs. Magneto. Uncanny X-Men issue number 149 starts off with Professor X, Charles Xavier, documenting and researching the present activities of Magneto fearing his imminent attack. Engulfed in his thoughts, Professor X is interrupted by Kitty Pryde, who phases through a wall, disrupting Professor's work. He yells at her and commands her to leave. Kitty then goes to reunite with her fellow X-Men, including Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops, with whom she shares an intimate affair. However, their meeting is interrupted by Professor X, who sends them on a reconnaissance mission to gather more information about Magneto's plan. Kitty sneakily boards the plane only to be discovered by Wolverine. Storm and others are disappointed at Kitty's actions, but they allow her to join the mission. Their destination lies under a volcano where Magneto previously fought the X-Men. The group descends to a tunnel that leads to Magneto's lab, which was engulfed by lava during their last visit. As they descend, they are surprised to see that the lab is not covered in lava and has been cleaned out, as if someone is still running the operations there. The group splits up to investigate when Storm hears a whisper, which takes her back to their last visit when she inadvertently led to the death of Garrick, a demigod who during the last battle of X-Men against Magneto fell into a thermal pit that led to the center of the Earth. Storm went after him, but the pressure, heat, and darkness were too much for her to handle and she had to retreat, leaving Garrick to face his fate. Storm comes back to her senses, but feels that someone else is present in the murky lab watching her. Kitty and Colossus are looking for any signs of Magneto when they're ambushed by a mysterious figure with a crystalline body. He attacks Colossus and announces himself as Garrick. Kitty manages to phase through Garrick, causing him great pain. He retaliates by punching a wall and flooding the lab with lava. Storm senses this and invokes a current of wind using her elemental powers, thus extinguishing the lava. However, their rescue is short-lived as Garrick attacks the X-Men and quickly overpowers them. He reveals that he was saved by Magneto when he fell into the thermal pit. Since then, he has been doing Magneto's bidding in that hellscape. He creates a thermal pit using a plasma ray from his eye and plans to throw Storm into it so she can meet the same fate that she left Garrick in. Kitty Pryde remembers that her phasing abilities previously immobilized Garrick, so she phases through him while the rest of the X-Men try to release Storm from his grip. Despite their best efforts, Garrick manages to throw Storm into the pit while falling himself in the attempt. The desolate pit is flooded in darkness, so Kitty decides to rescue Storm due to her bedazzling costume, while Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Colossus wait patiently on the other side. In the pit, Kitty discovers that Storm has been clinging to a ledge that saved her from falling to her death. However, before she can save Storm, Garrick charges into Kitty. Kitty phases through Garrick, thus sending him down the hellscape of his creation. Even though in excruciating pain, Nightcrawler manages to save both Kitty and Storm. As the X-Men retreat, they also realize the seriousness of Professor X's intuition about Magneto's attack. In the meantime, somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle, Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, and Lee Forrester are saved by Magneto, who provides them shelter, food, and clothes. When Magneto finally confronts them, he can take off his blindfolds as his optic blasts will not work on this island. In the next issue, Magneto announces to every global leader that mutants have been hunted and killed for long enough, and if he is not immediately given control over the whole world, he will wage war against humanity and decimate every Homo sapien. When Cyclops asks Magneto about why he is waging a war against humanity, Magneto replies that humans have destroyed the world due to hunger for war and conflict. He will cleanse the world of such destructive forces and repurpose the resources to eradicate famine, poverty, and other human tragedies. He further adds that the actions of humans cost him his family, who were mercilessly slaughtered without mercy or remorse. Their conversation is interrupted as alarms start blaring. A nearby German naval vessel fires ballistic missiles on the island. However, using his magnetic powers, Magneto fires the internal circuit and sends the missiles down the ocean. He then deals with the naval vessel by firing up the controls, sending it to the bottom of the sea. However, his revenge does not end here. He attacked a Siberian city using a specialized device that erupted an active volcano and started massive earthquakes that demolished multi-story skyscrapers. Blazing firestorms engulfed the whole city, while Magneto retarded the growth of the volcano, allowing people to evacuate the city. Watching the destruction, Magneto threatened the Premier that if his demands were not made and any attempts to revolt against him were made, his next target would be Moscow. The X-Men cover the island in their plane, but before they can land, their path is altered by Magneto's security measure, which starts hurling the plane in a downward direction. Storm uses her power to steer the plane, but only manages to crash land in the ocean. Meanwhile, Professor X, his friend Peter Corbeau, Carol Danvers, and Moira McTaggart are searching for Scott Summers. They find out that an island appeared overnight in the Bermuda Triangle, which sets them on a path to Magneto's lair. The X-Men escape using the oxygen canister. As they are swimming to sea level, Colossus turns back to his human form and is unable to transform into his steel form. His lungs start filling with water as he gasps for air. On the surface, the X-Men appearance is noticed by Lee Forrester, who informs them about Scott. But the rejoicing is cut short as an unconscious Colossus is carried by Nightcrawler. Colossus seems dead, but is resuscitated by Kitty and Wolverine. As they move inside the mansion, they spot Scott, who appears without a blindfold and informs them that Magneto has placed a power dampening inhibitor which is suppressing their mutant abilities. This was the reason Colossus inadvertently transformed back to his human form. The group splits up. Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and Colossus head to the lab where Magneto is storing his weapon capable of destroying the Earth by manipulating its core. They try to stop the weapon, but to no success as the weapon cannot be disarmed. So they decide to wreck the machine. Meanwhile, Kitty, Storm, and Lee try to gain access to Magneto's computer to control the machine. The task proves difficult without their powers, but Storm's previous experience as a thief helps her to pick the lock. However, the controls are encrypted, so Storm goes to search the other locked section of the mansion, where she finds Magneto sleeping. Back at the lab, Wolverine uses his adamantium claws and, with the help of Nightcrawler, wrecks the machine. Storm is in conflict watching Magneto sleeping helplessly, and she contemplates that she must end him right there at the moment to help save the world. However, she is also burdened with her morality and her vow not to kill anyone. She grabs a knife from the side stand, but before she can make her move, Magneto wakes up and, using her magnetic field, throws her out the window. Alerted by the X-Men's arrival, Magneto plans to kill them, but before he can make his move, Professor X attacks him using his psionic abilities from the boat as he and others are about to reach the island. For a moment, it seems that Magneto is helpless, but using his magnetic powers, he levitates Professor X's chair and brings him to the island. Magneto then confronts Wolverine and others with Professor X, Lee, and Kitty in his captivity. The X-Men, without their powers, are helpless and soon imprisoned by Magneto. Magneto reassembles the machine without breaking a sweat and gloats about killing Storm, unaware that Storm managed to latch on to a ledge. She somehow manages to recover and return to the control room, where she thrashes the computer using a chair. This move shuts down the power dampening inhibitor. Scott and Professor X are the first ones to realize this. Soon, the X-Men, with their regained powers, attack Magneto. Cyclops unleashes his optic blasts while Wolverine slashes him with his adamantium claws. Colossus rams him, and Professor X tries to control Magneto with his psionic abilities. Still, their combined abilities are no match for Magneto, who shields himself with his force field. It seems he is invulnerable to their attacks before Storm hits him with a lightning bolt and captures him in a tornado, cutting off his oxygen. As the X-Men are busy engaging with Magneto, Kitty phases through walls to reach the control room and phases through the computers to rewrite the data she previously did to Professor X's computer. Magneto repurposes Storm's lightning against her, and to save Storm, Nightcrawler teleports her to the sea. Realizing that this is just a distraction, Magneto races to confront Kitty. Kitty is taken aback by witnessing Magneto's violent appearance. She tries to phase through him, which disrupts Magneto's magnetic field and causes him excruciating pain. In retaliation, Magneto sends a powerful jolt of electricity at her, making her unconscious. As his pain resides, Magneto realizes his mistake. Watching the face of Kitty, which reminds him of his daughter Anya, he remarks, "She's just a child." It dawns on him that in an attempt to save mutants, he has become the very forces of evil that he was against. He remembers the days of his childhood in Auschwitz, where his family was killed while guards joked about it. Now his own action has hurt this innocent child, who is also the victim of innate hatred that he once suffered. Magneto curses himself, and the consequences of his action dawn on him. As Storm returns, he accepts his mistake and asks her to finish him once and for all, as he has become the same Venom he once sought to destroy. After a while, X-Men regroup on the beach. Magneto is nowhere to be found, even after an extensive search by Professor X. Professor X remarks that this is the X-Men's greatest victory, and they not only trumped Magneto, but also managed to make him realize his mistake and maybe let him on a path of betterment. Marvelous Verdict. This is one of the comics that has shed light on the character of Magneto, his motivations, and end goal. Magneto is motivated by the horrors he faced as a kid and the destructive path it ultimately led him to. However, we see that he wasn't always like this and had a family and daughter who were tragically taken from him. His end goal is not materialistic gains, but a better society for mutants and humans alike. The events of the comic led him to have a change of heart when he realized that in his pursuit of revenge, he had become the one he hated. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.